Donald Trump, in the last few months, especially after the $355 million judgment in New York City's fraud trial, is learning a very basic lesson. You're not above the law. And to help me illustrate this, I'm going to read you an MSNBC opinion piece by someone who's very unique to the idea of what's going on in New York. Bill de Blasio, the former mayor of New York City. In his op-ed piece, Trump thought New York City was his playground. Now, it's its nightmare. Judge Engoron handed Trump 355 million reminders that he's not, in fact, above our city's greatest laws. Reading from the op-ed, New Yorkers are no stranger to Donald Trump's legal problems. Starting decades ago, knowledgeable residents of the Big Apple witnessed the Trump family cheat and rig the system for their own benefits. So what's truly interesting about Friday's New York civil fraud decision is that Trump and his co-defendants are finally being held financially accountable to the tone of over $350 million. The massive judgment highlights the extent of Trump and the Trump Organization's white-collar malfeasance. Trump's actions have consequences, and New York's hard-working residents deserve to know that the rich and greedy don't get to play by different set of rules. As Kevin Wallace, a lawyer in New York Attorney General's Letitia James' office, said during closing arguments, Trump's misconduct, quoting him, prices out honest borrowers and could lead to more catastrophic results, unquote. Fortunately, an entire new generation of New York public servants, not steeped in the traditions of go along, get along, have emerged to fight back. Their actions this week confirm the long history of corruption is finally being overcome. Judge Arthur Engoron, a classically blunt New Yorker, has consistently shown he is not onward, but a powerful man whose fate he holds in his hands. And James, like me, who started in her political career and as an insurgent council member, stood her ground against Trump in a way her predecessor never managed, but it always didn't end up along work this way. In 1973, a federal investigation probed the racial discriminatory practices of Donald Trump and his father, Fred. The federal investigators took exception to Trump's family's habit of steering Black and Latino applicants away from the buildings where white people lived. Trump ultimately got a slap on the wrist, never acknowledged guilt, but kept on discriminating. That was just the beginning. The lesson Trump learned early on was bending the rules does pay. It's a philosophy that has framed a lifetime of business dealings in which at last may be catching up to him. Cut corners wherever you can. Play fast and loose with the rules and worry about the consequences later. On this journey, he brought along his consigliere, Ward Cohen, who got his start advising the eventual discredited Senator Joe McCarthy. If you think undermining democracy is something new for Trump, look no further than the fact that he gainfully employed one of the prime architects of the McCarthy era. Trump realized early on that he could get away with almost anything, so long as he was ready to retain enough pricey lawyers and donate to all the right political leaders. And party legislation had nothing to do with it. He and his minions have happily supported Democrats and Republicans, depending on who would help them the most. When it proved relatively painless to beat the housing discrimination rap in the 1970s, Trump decided to branch out. He allegedly cheated employees out of their wages and tips and stiffed contractors. He has called mobsters very nice people. He allegedly found colorful and creative ways to evade taxation. At one point, His father purchased millions of dollars of Atlantic City casino chips he never intended to use, gifting them to his son to help the younger developer make a bond payment, according to an investigation by the New York Times. What's so striking is how we New Yorkers became accustomed to the cycle of allegation, investigation, and then the Houdini-like escape. Whenever the authorities closed in on yet another brazen Trump violation of the law, they end up pulling their punch. Maybe it was his New York connections or donations. Maybe it was his media profile or his propensity to countersuit at all times. Or maybe it was simply that he created fear and doubt in the minds of those who were supposed to uphold an equal standard of justice. In 1989, with literally no evidence to guide him, Trump took out full-page ads in the New York City newspapers calling for the death penalty for 5 young black men who were falsely accused of raping a white woman. This sickeningly brilliant propaganda act helped ensure that innocent New Yorkers would spend over a decade in prison. Even when they were later exonerated by DNA evidence, Trump continued to blame them. And so, the pattern became clear to so many of us. Trump believed that the laws of New York simply didn't apply to him. He has treated our city like his personal playground, and it's no surprise that he would later boast to be a political candidate that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. And for far too long, the authorities never proved him wrong. And so, throughout the 1990s into the current century, the pattern continued. Trump exaggerated his assets. James's investigation concluded that he cheated his business partners. He walked away from contractual obligations. He created an entire university based on fraud, fraudulently preying on the low-income students seeking a better life. And nothing happened to him that would actually change his behavior. Until now. As New York's mayor, I was encowed by his power of mystique, and now it seems his spell is finally worn off. This is Judge Aaron speaking in this. Their complete lack of contrition and remorse borders on the pathological. Judge Aaron wrote this before giving Trump 355 million reminders that he's not, in fact, above the law. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for your words. But I have to agree on this. Donald Trump is not going to change his attitude. He still maintains that he's done nothing wrong, although all the evidence shows that he has. He's going to continue to scream, huff, and holler at how the system is rigged against him. He's going to continue to scream, huff, and holler about how none of this would be happening to him if he weren't running for president. It is happening to you, not because you're running for president, because you cheated people. You lied to people, you stole from people, you exaggerated your shit, and now it's coming back to bite you in the ass. So as much as you want to keep screaming about how it's all against you, oh woe is me, oh woe is me, stop, Trump. Because honestly, it's just making you look more of a guilty person. And as for that little trial about Stormy Daniels and the hush money, you might walk out with that one. And considering everything that's happening to you in Florida, how you're trying to get Aileen Cannon to delay the trial indefinitely, how you're trying to get Fani Willis disqualified from the prosecution in Georgia, it's not going to work, Trump. You've been exposed as the criminal scumbag that you are. And no amount of screaming, crying, even calling for your supporters to start killing people, which is what you want to happen, isn't going to stop the fact, and it's not going to change anyone's mind. You're a scumbag, and you know it. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.